reminds me of few things when we were kids and we used to look at uh, what uh, what is that thing which gives birth to a product. And invariably, it was taught to us at that point in time that you identify a need of something, and then to satisfy that need, a product or a service is born, and that is then refined to be made available. And then when it starts getting tested, then people talk about its cost and start reducing its cost. And then there are differentiators which come in, and then they start giving a different dimension to the said product or service, or whatever we are trying to create. But uh, in the last few years, we have seen few decades, I mean, that the technology actually overtakes pretty much everything. It used to be identification of need a long time ago. It's still there in certain cases, but in majority of the cases, the technology tells you today that I can also do this, and that becomes an offering of a product or a service. And that's something which is extremely critical today to understand, because what has the constant change in technology has done, and it pretty much changes in the field of media and entertainment almost every year. And it used to be every year till 2010, and now it's every 9 months. It rewrites itself in terms of the creative ability for the entertainment industry. And I happen to work in one of these industries where we create films with new age technology, even the games with new age technology, and it defines or redefines itself every single time. Secondly, when we were kids, our parents exactly knew that what is the mediums, or what are the information systems that our kids are exposed to. But as parents today, it's very difficult for the parents or the teachers to identify that today's kids are exposed to what information system and what information overload in a media, through the media that is so easily accessible. More so, at one point in time, it used to be a fixed, system. When I say fixed system, that you had a television, a newspaper, or a radio, or outdoor. But today, the mobility has changed everything, and the mobility has made it, accessible even more. So, to have a literacy of media has become so much important in everybody's life. You don't have to be a media student to have that literacy, because you are touched constantly by the goods and the bads of the system and this ecosystem in the world. And it's, in most of the cases, it's a matter of hygiene today. And it's a given truth that you are able to use the information that was available on certain media for the free, in the freemium segment. Whereas slowly one has actually started looking at how these actually changed over a period of time, and how it has become more important for every human being today, in whatever walk of life and whatever age, that they are literate about the media. And the information that is actually flowing through this medium has been made accessible, needs to be very carefully looked at as useful and not so useful for all individuals. And these choices will have to be made by every single person. And I'm very happy that we are going to actually have people speak about it today, more elaborate. And then we are going to really see that this series that is going on at this point in time which is we are on the seventh day, would be very fruitful in terms of discussion, throwing light, making people aware, giving certain points which are very thought-provoking. And this is how we can actually take it to the next level. So I would not stand, in between all the keynote sessions and the very important speakers that we have today, but we will go ahead and take it further, and then we will meet again at the conclusion and see what are the thought process that we need to ponder upon and continue to think, because this is a process that constantly, touches lives of people, and especially people who are into the profession of media and the media literacy itself, and even creating information or creating content. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you so much, sir. Very well said that even parenting in digital era became challenging. And we are living in the age of technological determinism, where technology is determining our life. And we have to think about it. Even Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary, sir, in the chat box said very well that, mobility and individualization of media, I mean, we have to think about all these things, and they are changing the media scenario. So now I would like to introduce our chief guest, who is Dr. Dharani Mishra, ma'am, without taking too much of time, because because of the paucity of time, we are having a very tight schedule. So Dr. Dharani Mishra, ma'am, has been a civil service officer belonging to the Indian Information Service Group A, who served on various senior capacities in the Government of India. For 15 years, she was in Prasar Bharati, serving as editor-in-chief of Doordarshan News and later as director DD News. Dr. Dharani has held the important position of CBI spokesperson and media officer during the highly turbulent 2G spectrum investigation for over 3 years. She was also the media officer for the Ministry of Finance for 3 years, have managed audiovisual and publishing for key ministries in the DAVP. She completed her PhD in Human Development from University of Delhi. Dr. Dharani took VRS from government service 4 years ago and has been teaching organizational behavior, media issues, and developmental psychology in Delhi University and private university. She also works as a clinical therapist and special educator for children with autism, which is her passion in life. And on behalf of Global Media Education Council, we welcome you, ma'am. And now I'll request our chief guest to kindly throw light on the topic, media literacy in the age of information overload. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. And it is namaskar to everyone, and much gratitude to the GMEC for inviting me. And an absolute honor to be able to connect with my teacher and mentor at the IIMC, Dr. Subhash Dhulia. He has been, a guiding force throughout. And when I took VRS, he was one of the first to connect with me. I'm so happy to be with Ashish ji and Miss Uba Rosaline. And thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity. So here we are discussing the topic of media literacy in the age of information overload. And this is something, which is totally governing our lives these days. And when Bhavna mentioned this topic to me, the first thing that came to my mind were the lines from Charles Dickens' novel, A Tale of Two Cities, that it is the best of times, it is the worst of times. This is the age of wisdom and the age of foolishness. So we have the spring of hope and the winter of despair. We have everything before us, and we have nothing before us. So this is a continuum, and what we make of it is dependent on our role as media professionals, media educators, and whether we benefit from it or lose out depends on how well and how with great wisdom, and how well we know the technique of utilizing the digital space. And we are back to the basics following McLuhan's adage that the medium is the message, right? So this is something with Professor Dhulia taught me about 25, 30 years ago, and now we are back here. So in this space now, what is happening is that your books are being scanned, newspapers are being digitized, and your expensively produced television programs are being sliced and cut down, appropriated to be offered on new media. So there is a huge scramble to occupy that digital space, which everyone is now accessing. I think so many of us have cut out our cable televisions and have moved to digital. Yes, and even radio is not spared, and we have radio shows being converted into digital podcasts. So, friends, technology is driving media. Traditional media is converging in digital space. Divisions are getting blurred. And I've made some presentation. Let me see if I can share it. Is it coming? No.
Yes, ma'am. It is.
But it's is it correct? One sec. Let me see what
you have to give it to the full screen, I guess. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, now
it is visible now. Yeah.
So we have traditional media divisions getting blurred and boundaries are disappearing. So this is the age of convergence, and most importantly, you must all be familiar with the term digital natives. So what I can say is all of us today who are in this panel discussion are not digital natives. We actually learn so much from our children, so much from teenagers and the students of your universities. They are the ones whose minds are wired into how we can utilize our digital space in a much better fashion, because we have a lot of unlearning to do. So how do we access media? We have to reorient ourselves. What we are doing now is we are producing our media in the original format and then trying to fit it into the digital space. So, but we have to now unlearn, relearn, and start dividing our content which according to searchability, nomenclature, formatting, and global appeal. So many of you, I think all of us are busy just surfing the net and all, and you will see Twitter accounts and web Facebook pages like Humans of Bombay, Humans of New Bombay. They have an incredible following. They are also media, and they have been able to capture the global imagination. You have housewives who are doing so many things. They are telling you how to clean the home, and we are watching videos from across how a person in the US is using new gadgets, new tricks to clean her home, and a person in India who is doing a pre-Diwali cleaning is benefiting. So those people, they are not professionals, but they have somehow understood how to navigate this digital space, whereas our traditional media is actually struggling. So the rules are changing. We have instant access to so much of information, and very interestingly, the time gap is non-linear. You can your new movie, the new James Bond movie, will compete with the 1930s Alfred Hitchcock movie, because everything is available at the same platform, right? So I'm just like when I was thinking, there's so many things which is there, on your digital media. You have information, you have formal media, you have publications, research, books, films, personal videos and messages, education, shopping, advertising, gaming, and so much more. So your shopping, your online e-commerce, education is sharing the same space with media, right? Now there is a book called Virtual Addiction, and and David Greenfield is a very eminent author. So what he says is so relevant to us today, that our culture is about distracting. We are numbing ourselves, just going through information and nothing sticks, because there is this intermingling of media, of information, and we have to use our own cognitive abilities to tune into the information being offered, and then able to retain it. There's so much information, but it's not easy to retain it. So this is this concept of information overload, which overwhelms us. It impedes our decision making ability, and we have this tendency to believe what comes up first. If you type the best, what's a good film, so 5 films which are the best to view on this time this year, so whatever comes up first we will see. Then there is so much of information, so it is difficult to identify posts which are fake and which are absolutely unreliable. And then there is another huge psychological impact of so-called personal posts, but they're actually public. You have your vacation holidays of normal people, and everyone is smiling and everyone is enjoying expensive vacations, and showing here and there an artificial background, which is playing on our mind and creating all kinds of mental health problems, because we are unable to distinguish what is real, what is not real. Because after all, our mind tells us this is not paid advertising. This lady is enjoying herself, in some pretty beach and all that, and with smiling kids who are so well behaved. So what information overload also does is manipulates our existing cognitive biases. See, many of us, we are brought up in a particular manner. Let me give you an example of our current pandemic situation. So what happens is that if our learning is such that we will not rely on vaccines or something like that, so we tend to believe the posts which are anti-vaccine. It is not so in education. In education, it's a one-way process. The system is telling you no, vaccines are good, and the children are learning this. But because of information overload, we are tending to believe those posts which are manipulating our existing biases, right? Now, how to manage information overload? This is something which I think there is no answer. But because it's exploration, it is just trying out, trial and error, something which our kids are learning. So I think we need to be more and more familiar with digital spaces, and we need to critically analyze, what kind of digital space is it? Who is the author? There are no rules here, mind you, right? So in a newspaper story, okay, this newspaper is owned by so-and-so, he is aligned to so-and-so ideology, this, that, the other. Here it is nothing. It's just a wonderfully written, beautifully illustrated post. So we have to find our linkages and explore on our own. We need to search and read up deeper and wider, correlate and cross-reference with real situations. If you don't meet friends, if you don't interact, you will tend to more and more believe digital spaces, and our situation would be something like the Matrix movies, right? And so we need to get a lot of viewpoints, and this is what a lay person can perhaps do to avoid and manage too much of information and make a choice through all this information which is being bombarded on him or her. Now, interestingly, we need to identify the role of media professionals in combating information overload. Somehow, media professionals, those who have been trained in media, have been just a passive viewers, to all this drama that is happening. So media professionals have to participate and contribute in a bigger way in digital spaces. Uh, the media has to drive innovations and adaptations. When the television came in a bigger way, uh, it was a demand from the media. Yeah, we can make radio programs. It would be so nice if a video is also presented, and there was a trial, and it was able to capture eyeballs. But here we are victims of the technical revolution. One important way of combating information overload, which has been proven scientifically, is to set up virtual communities, something like Quora. I think if you want to ask a question, what career choice should I take? I've got these subjects. So you are likely to get a personal opinion from Quora. So there are many such communities, but we need more, and we need them on a bigger way. Then we need online support platforms like fact check platforms. You can immediately check. It's coming up now, but it's too few, and they're not able to catch up with the information overload, the huge information. Then we need to have niche reporting, which is something which is we are trained for, but in a very different way. If you see websites or Twitter accounts of live law, they will, on bar and bench, they give accurate descriptions of what judgment has been made in the courts, irrespective of whether it interests the masses or not. So for each and every PIL, they are giving accurate information, right? Then next we have, this is something which is very, something I thought, that we have to equip our young media professionals in information literacy. I feel that our media world is still top driven. We are not leading innovations. If you see other sectors like IT, you see banking, you see online shopping, those finance people, the engineers or whoever, they are leading in innovations. In media, I feel that we are just trying to fit in as of now. So we need to prop up our youngsters and lead innovative kind of programming, which will be more in tune to digital spaces, rather than having that traditional scenario and fitting it into digital spaces. Now we need to develop mechanisms for gatekeeping, which was the media's prime responsibility. And how to do that: to categorize nomenclature, categorize data, give appropriate nomenclature, and not let any cultural or linguistic region get left behind. Because if you actually go into digital spaces, I think an English speaking person will be able to get more information out of the net than the one who speaks Hindi. And we have to encourage research and analysis, which is a shortfall in our current media scenario. What we are doing is we are going on teaching journalism. But yes, journalism is equally important. I don't know how equally as important as learning IT rules and regulations. Do our students actually know how algorithms are used, how how the searching comes up, how digital advertising is taking place? In fact, advertising has been able to adapt itself much better than news journalism or programming. So for the future, I think media has to lead the change and not just adapt to the change. So that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful and enlightening session. I mean, so many things, so many questions, in fact, you raised that we have to think about the algorithm as well. And even how, the technology is changing the field of journalism too. Now, robo-journalism is a kind of new trend, or we can say a hybrid newsroom is a newsroom where digital media technologies are being used, and the traditional media is getting blurred, boundaries are disappearing, and minds are getting wired. So in this mediatized world where, like the face-to-face communication is lacking somewhere and we are using the mediated communication, we have to rethink about how actually to consume media. I mean, how to consume media in a balanced way. So it's a kind of, we have to think about balanced media diet as well. So thank you so much for this wonderful session of yours. And now, I will request our session chair, sir, to kindly introduce our eminent Indian media educator, Professor Subhash sir, and confer him with Lifetime Achievement Award. Over to you, Ashish, sir.
Thank you very much, Bhavna. In fact, it's although Amrit sir and Ujjwal sir asked us to do this, but I feel, very small in front of a great, experience and a great human being here who have, given us a huge contribution and have nurtured so many, media professionals over a period of 4 decades. It's not a small time, and I think for anybody, at some point in time when Dr. Mishra started speaking, I thought she would have been the best person to introduce him, because she has also been a student of hers. Of course, I'll do the job formally, but I would definitely like to state here that while I read his profile, it looks like you had a teacher who would actually create an interest in the subject, because what I've learned so far is a student's interest in a subject is as good as the teacher is, and I think that's exactly what I would define Professor Subhash Dulhajji after reading the profile, because I've never met him in the past, and I wish I get an opportunity to meet him very soon. So Subhashji is a distinguished academician. He is a researcher and a great educational administrator, as they say. But I think it's a very important thing that one would look at an empathy of students, and that would come only as you work closely with students. And that's why he has actually contributed immensely as a writer in Sanchar, as an editor and a communicator with Sanchar Madhyam, and also has been involved as an assistant editor and editorial writer with Times Group. At the same time, before he actually joined the academics, he worked with Times of India, Anand Bazar Patrika, and Navbharat Times as an editor for the Sunday magazine. But you know what he is much known for right now, that he has been a vice chancellor of Uttarakhand Open University, director and professor of School of Journalism and New Media Studies at IGNOU, professor and the course director at Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and professor of culture and media studies at Central University of Rajasthan. He has over 4 decades, as I said, been in practice, and all this experience was well put to use as a course director and resource person for Indian Information Service, and creating diploma courses at IIMC. He has also designed several courses and specialized courses for Indian Foreign Service, Indian Police Service, senior army officers. And on a request, he has also been on behalf of Indian Ministry of External Affairs, have done journalism, have trained journalists and designed courses at Maldives and Afghanistan, and certain courses in Nepal sponsored by FES of Germany and associated with training programs conducted by different institutes in Germany. He was involved with UNESCO, NAC, and what to say, when this whole topic was discussed about Lifetime Achievement Awards, we knew that Indian media has come a long way, and there has been very solid pillars, because India has been one country where we had a very distinctive, ways and means of communication, and the media played a very major role, because we are one country where more than 29, 30 languages are there. And it makes the communication even more difficult, because there are urban areas and there are rural areas, and the reach in multiple areas. One person who has seen through it all in 4 decades and also taught at the same time is our a unique and a very legendary media educator and a media person. I would say Professor Subhash Dulhajji. And it gives me a great pleasure in not only introducing him, but also, on behalf of Global Media Education Council, confer a Lifetime Achievement Award. And sir, this is a very humble gesture from the council, but I would say that all the people who are listening to you have always been a student of yours at some point in time, and even today, we all would like to listen to you as a student, and your great experience of changing times in the media sector over the 4 decades, and how it's actually being relevant to the today's youth and today's population of all ages. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ashish, for your kind words and a very long introduction. It's my pleasure to be here and to see some friends in this virtual mode. Ambrish Saxena, Ujjwal, and Dharani. I think we are meeting Dharani after a very, very long time, maybe over a decade. So it's a very pleasure meeting her. Today, topic I think is very, very interesting. When internet was invented long back in the CERN lab in Sweden, it was a great revolutionary technology that was invented. Now every technology has a brighter side and a dark side. So internet in its initial phases was something which was great achievement. In first phase, it provided a very important platform for collecting, gathering, and dissemination of information. Second phase was when it became more interactive. And later phases, then we have today's situation, we can say, when the social media has become very, very powerful. All news organizations, television channels are on digital portal. There are large number of news digital portals also. So many YouTube channels. In today's context now, in fact, it has become very, very difficult even to define the mainstream media. I think mainstream media is no more a mainstream media. TV channels and big newspapers. Now, these YouTube channels and news portals, they've eroded the audience of these major channels in today's situation. So, internet, that means people, now major chunk of the people living on this planet, they have access to internet, and they can access huge amount of information, which we have never heard before. And great amount of that information recent years, it was not in the previous phase, is fake news, disinformation, misinformation, distorted information. And people are just lost in the jungle of information to find that what is truth and what is lie. So that's a biggest challenge in today's situation, that we can say there is a global war has been launched against the truth. If you take the overview of different countries that has happened there because of elections and whatever it is. So this huge amount of information is being accessed by ordinary people. Ordinary people, they do not have intellectual skills to evaluate the information. And when one has to evaluate the information, then one should have curiosity to know more, some researching. Now, most of the people, they accept the information, the face value. They don't try to do some research and find out what is the truth behind this information. So that's one problem. That means now in journalism school also, we are imparting mostly professional and technical skills, and we are ignoring the intellectual skills. Now our new generation is very tech savvy. They can do miracles on their smartphone, produce videos, even documentaries. But as far as intellectual skills is concerned, the situation is a little pathetic. Whether it's common people or whether it's even the journalism students and even journalists themselves. So this is now very, very important that people must be equipped with the intellectual skills so that they can evaluate every bit of information in terms of its truthfulness, in terms of its source. Now, who is the source of the information is very, very important. Whether source is trustworthy or not trustworthy. So this is the situation that we are facing today, that the web domain is full of colossal amount of information. And at the same time, we are not able to make best of it. In fact, after information revolution and emergence of the web, we thought that we have now moved to the information society, from feudalism to capitalism, and then industrial society, and then information society. And the new phase was termed as the knowledge society also. Now, what really later on you see so many people, they have coined so many terms and analyzed this phenomenon of this huge amount of information that is available, and the way people are bombarded with that information through news or advertisements and so many other forms. So that's where you see this situation was in fact anticipated long back. It's not something new that has occurred. It is happening today in different contexts. But Jerry Mander, one of the very prominent American journalists, he wrote a book back in 1977. The title of that book was 7 Reasons for Elimination of Television. He strongly argued that television should be eliminated. His argument was that television is bombardment of images, bombardment of all kinds of information, and it's making people passive. Now, this passivity is something which is now become very, very dominant. In fact, now last year there is a new book again. The title of that book is something that 10 reasons why you should remove social media from your smartphone. Now there is a big movement that is now gathering, which is against even the social media, because the kind of distortion these informations are creating in our thinking, in our analysis. So that's where you see this kind of passivity that is being created by the internet. The first phase of internet was more interactive, and this phase of internet and the social media is creating isolated individuals who do not interact at all. Now, when we say knowledge, then traditionally we used to acquire knowledge through our own experience, our own observation, which is the most authentic knowledge that we acquire through our own observations and experience. And then reading the books that were another source of information traditionally. Now, today, the kind of bombardment that's taking place is making people isolated. In the first phase, we thought that we have created internet community, and it is more interactive, and now people can share their ideas, their experiences, but that has not occurred. The situation today is totally different now. Now we are living in a situation which is we very anticipate that in what direction we are heading. There is emergence of the major information giants like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and these 4-5 information giants are now controlling huge amount of information. Whenever we access, we connect ourselves to the net, information about us is being gathered. And through artificial intelligence and these algorithms, they are creating our profile. In fact, if you are using net for last 10 years, then these information giants, they have more information about ourselves than even we know about it. 10 years back, you might have liked some Facebook post. You must have forgotten it, but they remember it, they analyze it. They can analyze our political orientation. They can analyze our consumption patterns, the way advertising agencies is working today. Whenever you access some website, some news website, and you have done some shopping on Amazon advertisements will start appearing on that website. So that is now happening there, the way we are being controlled. So this is a different kind of control. One clear example that what really is the future of democracy? What is the future of freedom? That's that scandal of Cambridge Analytica, which occurred during President Trump's first election campaign. But there is very, very excellent example that direction we are heading. Because Facebook collected huge amount of information on American voters, and then they shared that information with Trump campaigners. And they went for micro-targeting. Micro-targeting means if they can micro-target, for example, say only South Delhi, they can evaluate the entire profile of the South Delhi, the political orientation of South Delhi people, and they can target only South Delhi for their political campaign. So now it's possible now by using that information that in different regions in the different parts of the country, even at the district and tehsil level, politicians can go for that kind of micro-targeting political campaigns. Now this situation now again is, it's being widely talked now is that the democracy is also under threat. Bhavna, how much time you have?
Sir, actually 15-minute time is allotted to all speakers.
So how much is left now?
Yes, sir, you still have 4 to 5 minutes. We want to listen to you, no issues. I mean, it's really very important to understand all these aspects when we talk about information overload.
Okay. I can take a little, I will brief and I will take a few more minutes. Now, this is where you see now, there is a great amount of literature that today democracy is on decline. And it is kind of electoral aristocracy that has emerged, because elections are not being fought on the basis of the rational thinking of the people. Elections are being fought on the basis of the emotions and the feelings. And these major information giants, they have that capacity. They can manipulate our behavior, that they can manipulate us to move in particular direction. So that's even the future of freedom, how free we are. Can we say today that we are fully free? In fact, I know some people, they have stopped watching television and reading newspapers and magazines. They said that these products which are being offered through this news media is blurring their thinking. It's destroying their creativity. It's destroying their critical thinking. So they more read books and they believe more on their own experience. If they want to understand politics, they don't watch television channels and they don't read newspapers. That's one example that I'm citing, is that how this age of information, it has now turned into age of ignorance, age of misinformation, age of disinformation, age of fake news. So it has become extremely difficult for people, even for the professional like us, how to dig out truth out of it. So truth, I think, is something is under danger. And when we say media literacy or information literacy, we mean that we should be equipped to evaluate the information. We should be able to read between the lines. And we should able to evaluate the information in our own, based on our own experiences, our own surroundings. So that's something, one thing that's important, that elections, this is now kind of a data age is setting. Now this is data domination by these information giants. This is data colonization is taking place. And then there is a danger, what in fact historian Harari in his book, 21st Lessons of 21st Century, he has mentioned that more and more now elections are being fought on the basis of feelings in elections. People can easily be manipulated when you play with their emotions. And these information giants and this huge propaganda machinery now is at work now. In fact, now, if you take the victory of Trump in America, Trump victory was totally on racist agenda. And Trump is one Republican candidate who got maximum popular vote in the history of Republican Party. American society is now totally divided on the basis of the race. Similarly, Boris Johnson in Britain, his only agenda was immigration. There was no policies, no programs, no vision, but only immigration, and he won the elections. About India, you all know it pretty well. I don't need to repeat it. So these are the trends now. This is very, very important to understand the concept of electoral autocracy. Informed citizenry is now waning. People are not informed, and people are not informed and misinformed. Then they cannot vote on the right direction in a rational manner. So that's one challenge that mankind, I think, is facing. The kind of control, the kind of manipulative power these information chains they've acquired, and who are in total collaboration with the political leadership of the different countries. So that's one situation. Then just a couple of points, hurriedly I will go through them, that we talk about the truth and post-truth area. So one thing is that only one chunk of the major chunk of force is connected to the internet, and there are large number of population in the world who are still not connected. Now, when you say post-truth, then I don't think that you can destroy truth. Truth has been overshadowed as of now. It's the dangerous tendency that has evolved, but ultimately truth will depend on our own experience. Maybe not today, after 5 years, 10 years, we will realize that what truth is when we relate that to our own life experiences. Just briefly about the news media. Now, news media, today's landscape is totally blurred now. we are getting different kind of information from different news outlets. But there are certain brighter side of the situation now. As I mentioned earlier, that it's not the mainstream media who is dominating the scene. Mainstream media can easily be controlled by the government, by the corporates. But now these small media outlets that are emerging, YouTube channels, news portals, they are challenging the dominance of mainstream media, which I think is the most positive development that has occurred. And let's hope that the new technology takes the right turn in future. It's not going to happen in near future, but maybe in due course. And ultimately, let's hope that someday truth will prevail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening session. You talked about so many things like data colonization, which we have to understand, misinformation, disinformation, distorted information, and we are in the jungle of all these, kind of fake information, and how to identify, and not only debunking of, when we talk about the media literacy, it's not only limited to the debunking of mis and disinformation, but also media literacy actually help us to become critical thinker. As you said, like we have to understand how this data has been colonized and how the truth is decaying this time, and what is the reality of post-truth and all those things. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful interaction with us, and you left us with so many questions on which we have to discuss. Thanks so much. And now I'm moving towards the second segment, that is the paper presentation. And I will request Dr. Kriti Singh and her co-presenter, Mr. Swarendu Rai, and they are going to present the paper on fake news and artificial intelligence, a narrative literature review. So Dr. Kriti Singh and Swarendu Rai, I would...
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. Over to you.
Can I share my screen, ma'am?
Yes, you may. You may.
Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes, it is very much visible.
Just a very good evening to all the senior panelists here. And yes, it is true that most of the people who are sitting here right now have at one point or the other time have been student of Dr. Subhash Zolia. And I'm delighted that on this day I'm presenting my paper as well. Heartiest congratulations to you, sir. This paper, Fake News and Artificial Intelligence, is a narrative literature review, which has been presented by myself, Dr. Kriti Singh, and my co-author, Mr. Swarendu Roy. It is a working paper at this moment. The technological transformation of journalism from traditional to electronic has brought extraordinary opportunities as well as challenges to the mass communication. One such challenge, which the working paper wants to throw light on, is the artificial intelligence and how it is creating an impact on the journalism. The aim of this working review paper is to examine the existing body of knowledge to analyze the impact of disruptive technology of artificial intelligence on fake news. The objective of this working review paper is to locate, examine, summarize, and synthesize the existing literature on AI and fake news. It endeavors to achieve the following from the identified literature: to describe and examine the theoretical underpinning, identify various themes and patterns, compare and analyze the findings at the later stage. These were our research questions. How has the technology of AI impacted the construction, dissemination, and detection of fake news? What are the dominating theories emerging from the identified literature? What are the dominating themes and patterns in the identified literature? And what are the major findings from the identified literature? The method that we opted was narrative literature review. The database was identified, where quality paper connected to the research study area. The database which we identified included Mendeley, ProQuest, JSTOR, Google Scholar, academia.edu, EBSCO research database. The keywords which we used together were fake news and artificial intelligence. Unlike systematic literature review, there was no acknowledged guidelines for the exclusion and inclusions of the articles. One way of deciding the exclusion and inclusion factors were the research questions, and the selection criteria of inclusion of the articles may not be specified explicitly. That is also the limitation of this paper. in order to keep paper updated, not only with the recent development, but also with the recent past development, bearing in mind the technological aspect of artificial intelligence and the feasibility of time available, the research paper decided to opt for last 10 years. However, in the discussion, we are open for any other suggestions. At present, as it is a working paper, we have reviewed the papers from 2016 to 2020. Now I'm going to present before you the list of scholarly papers identified from 2016 to 2020. These are the papers. I will quickly name the topics, name the titles: Detection and Promoted Social Media Campaign, Emilio Ferrar et al., The Rise of Bots, Fake News Detection on Social Media, a Data Mining Perspective, Fake News, Real Consequences, Recruiting Neural Network for Fight Against Fake News, Fake News Detection, a Deep Learning Approach, Method to Identify Fake News in Social Media Using AI Technologies, Fake News Detection within Online Social Media Using Supervised AI Algorithm, Investigating the Emotional Appeal of Fake News Using Artificial Intelligence and Human Contribution, Artificial Intelligence and New Level of Fake News, Fake News, Disinformation and Deepfakes, Leveraging Distributed Ledger Technologies and Blockchain to Combat Digital Deception and Counterfeit Reality. Now I'm going to present before you the graphical representation of the data. The graphical representation of data was made by using software MaxQDA. The frequency was kept 10. And this is the graphical representation of the word cloud, which we got after deleting those words which were not required. This is the graphical representation for the other two papers, where news and models emerge as the most frequently used words. This is another graphical representation where again fake news, neural model, news, analysis, sources, fake emerged as most used words in the papers. This is graphical representation for papers 7 and 8. This is the graphical representation for paper 9 and 10, where deep fake news, fake content emerged as the most used word. And this is the overall, when we took the final selected papers, this is the combined word cloud. Moving forward, now I will be discussing the major themes which we identified from the data. From our first paper on detection of promoted social campaign, the themes emerged that social media as a vehicle of information disseminator, information campaigns for both positive and negative campaigns, organic and promoted information campaigns were discussed, machine learning framework capable to detect promoted and organic campaigns. In our second paper, the rise of bots, and somewhere in the previous speakers have also referred to it, social media ecosystem and social bots challenges and opportunities were discussed. Role of social media in early recognition and characterization of emergency events, usage of social bots in political discourses to manipulate stock markets, steal personal information, and spread misinformation. In our paper, Fake News Detection on Social Media, a Data Mining Perspective, the themes which we identified were the role and challenges posed by social media for news consumption, social media as vehicle of spreading fake news, growing interest in fake news detection on social media in the research area, challenges of fake news detection on social media. Again, a lot of deliberation on definition and characteristics of fake news, the psychological foundation of fake news, and how the social dynamics contribute to fake news, and how social media act as a vehicle of propaganda. In fake news consequences, recruiting neural network for the fight against fake news. The themes which identified were model architects to evaluate and detect fake news, focused on important part of identifying fake news like stance detection. Stance detection involves estimating the relative perspective or stance of two pieces of text relative to topic, claim, or issues. In our paper, Fake News Detection, a Deep Learning Approach, detection fake news by deep learning architectures, challenges of automated detection fake news, social media, again, as spreading vehicle of fake news, scope of AI and natural language processing in fake news detection. Usage of stance detection was again present in this paper, and challenges of defining and detecting fake news. And another interesting thing which we observed was the engaging public participation in detecting fake news, like Fake News Challenge, FNC1 in 2016. In methods to identify fake news in social media using AI, Mechanism for publishing and distribution fake news according to classification structure and algorithm of construction, the importance of understanding the menace of fake news, classification of fake news, reliability of web sources and misinformation detection models, usage of artificial intelligence to identify fake news, and mathematical models. In the paper Fake News Detection with Online Social Media Using Supervised Artificial Intelligence, the themes talked about how internet have enhanced this menace of fake news, the digitalization, again, the role of social media in disseminating news, social media as vehicle of spreading fake news, growing importance of fake news, challenges of detecting fake news, usage of AI-based model and algorithm to detect fake news, social media again seen as a propaganda vehicle, and negative effects of fake news on society was discussed. Investigating the emotional appeal of fake news using artificial intelligence and human contribution. And that was a very interesting paper personally. Fake news referred as fake news crisis, usage of artificial intelligence in identifying fake news, how a strong emotional appeal on content, on the consumers of content impacts them, and how social media again spread fake news, impact of digitalization on spread of fake news, and the impact of fake news on the brand and how it poses a challenge to brand communication, and usage of AI-based models and algorithm to detect fake news. The last two papers, I will quickly sum up the themes. Again, the concept of fake news, deep fakes, artificial intelligence, content generated and deep fakes. Very interesting thing about the software face swap, again used for deep fake, and the challenge of deep fake news and recommendations we had. And in the last paper, fake news, disinformation and deep fake, the growing concern of digital deception and fake news, characteristics of fake news and deep fake, role of emerging technologies like IoT and AI, again, role of social media and content dissemination, usage of blockchain and DLTs, and challenge and recommendation to combat digital deception. Findings from the data. Now, may I request Mr. Swarnendu Roy to kindly take it forward.
Thank you, Dr. Kriti. Coming on to the findings from the data. Next slide, please, ma'am. The first paper, the research study was able to design a machine learning framework that was capable to detect promoted campaigns and separate them from organic ones in their early stages. We were talking about robo-journalism, the rise of social bots. This research paper presented various kinds of bot detecting methods like graph-based social bot detection, crowdsourcing social bot detection, feature-based social bot detection, etc. The third paper, the fake news detection on social media, a data mining perspective. It talks about survey method, which presented a comprehensive review of detecting fake news on social media, including fake news characterizations on psychology and social theories. The fourth paper, it developed the 4 neural network models for fake news challenge, FNC1. After running over 100 experiments, the study concluded that the best model was bag of words, followed by a 3-layer MLP, that is multi-layer perceptron, one of the best options to detect fake news. The fifth paper, in that it concluded that the deep learning architectures provide a feasible solution to detect fake news. Moreover, the neural network architecture can help in accurate prediction of fake news. The sixth paper, that is the methods to identify fake news in social media using AI tech. In that, the research study analyzes the mechanisms for publishing and distributing fake news. It distributed it according to the classification, structure, and algorithm of the construction. The research study in the 7th paper, the fake news detection within online social media using supervised artificial intelligence algorithm. In this, the research study proposed a model to detect the fake news in social media by combining the text mining methods and supervised AI algorithms. The next paper concluded that the titles are a strong differentiator on emotions between fake and real news, and fake news titles are substantially more negative than real news titles. The paper on artificial intelligence and new level of fake news, it concluded that the videos made with deep fake are hard to tell if they were fake. Moreover, the access to software implementing deep fake, like face swap, is easily available and it can be used in film industry. The last paper concluded that the blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies, commonly known as DLTs, provides a workable solution in tackling digital deception. Coming on to the conclusion, Today, there are reasons why you struggle under the weight of fake or worthless content. Just to give a data, every 60 seconds, we are generating about 160 million emails, 98,000 tweets, 600 videos, and 1,500 blogs. Nobody, but only a machine, could keep up with it all. Fake news is a crisis which is growing in an exponential way. Defining this appears to be a challenging task. Today, as human, we are confused, perplexed, and maybe paranoid that every WhatsApp that we receive may be truth or may be a false. We have a nudge whether it is true. We have never experienced such a time when we have so much information, so many opinions thrown at us from so many angles. The role of social media in propagation of fake news emerges another in-depth discussed topic. Therefore, there is a need to study this along with the use of AI. That is what this paper intends to do. Thank you. The various references.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roy and Dr. Kriti Singh. It was a well-structured paper. And moving towards the next paper, that is by Saranya PS, and she's going to present a paper on change in the utility and effectiveness of media after COVID-19 lockdown among housewives in Kerala. Ms. Saranya PS. Ms. Saranya.
Yes, thank you. I'm sharing my screen. Am I audible,
Yes.
ma'am?
Yes, quickly you have to. Quickly, please. Yep. And please stick to the time. It's a humble request.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you see the slide? Hello, ma'am.
Yes, it is visible. Saranya, it's visible.
Okay. Thank you, GMAC and GCC, for the opportunity. I'm Sharanya PS, Academic and Teaching Associate at IIMC, Kottayam. And this is my topic, change in the utility and effectiveness of social media after COVID-19 lockdowns among homemakers in Kerala. So COVID-19 pandemic brought drastic changes in the work culture too. It got shifted the online mode and workplace changed from office to home. But the workplace of the homemakers did not change. Still, they also preferred online communication. So I'm from Kerala, so I thought I have to do a study in Kerala itself. And hence the study intends to find out the change in the utility and effectiveness of social media after COVID-19 lockdowns among homemakers in Kerala. So these are my objectives and hypotheses. To trace the change in the utility of social media among homemakers after COVID-19 lockdowns, to evaluate the effectiveness of social media in the life of a homemaker, to identify their favorite social medium, to understand the purpose behind the social media usage. And hypotheses are increased after COVID-19 lockdowns, homemakers' social media usage got increased, and they're using social media for connectivity, sharing information, news updation, and purchasing or marketing products. Then my second H2 is it affects decision making, educating, entertaining, and awareness creation. And WhatsApp is the favorite social medium of the homemakers in Kerala. And H4 is the purpose behind the social media usages are information updation, sharing their views or thoughts or status, and for connectivity and financial benefits. My methodology is as I used my analytical survey, observation, secondary data analysis. My research is both qualitative and quantitative, and my sampling type is convenient and snowball sampling, and among 100 homemakers from Kerala. And so from the questionnaire, I've given some charts. So most of the homemakers have personal accounts in WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram. And almost 66% of the samples said that their favorite social media is WhatsApp. And around a majority of the homemakers share their views, repost or status publicly in social media. And about 90% of the homemakers in Kerala are well aware about the spreading of fake news via social media. And you can see from these charts that the homemakers prefer activities during free time before COVID-19 is watching TV and surfing social media and talk to intimates. But after COVID-19, their preference got changed to surfing social media and reading, but the talking to intimates is got reduced from 21% to 11%. And they often visit social media. Almost they visit social media every hour or around every 2 to 4 hours. So the motive behind using the social media before COVID-19 is for time pass and news updation and for to share their views and thoughts. But after COVID-19 lockdowns, their preferences got for self-satisfaction, news updation, and for connectivity. So after COVID-19 lockdowns, in the forward messages, they used to check for facts and forward. Before that, they used to read and forward only. Okay, from this chart, while using social media, we came across many ads, or even in the WhatsApp also, many people market their products. So before the COVID-19 lockdowns, around 40% of the homemakers didn't purchase more via the social media. But after COVID-19 lockdowns, around 45% of the homemakers prefer buying products while they come across using social media. And these are the utilities they prefer while using social media. One is entertainment, then for updating their views or status of other people's status, then for to share their public opinion and knowledge development. And many people think that the social media does not have much effect on their decision making. And my major findings are: WhatsApp is their social media app, and they use social media. Use of social media became daily routine, and majority of they do social media for sharing their status and viewpoints. They are very well aware about the fake news, and they developed a habit of checking facts in forward messages. And they use social media for self-satisfaction, news updation, and connectivity. And they don't have much effectiveness in the decision making of the homemakers. And the number of homemakers who purchase products while come across using social media got doubled. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Saranya, for paper presentation. Now moving towards introducing our keynote speaker, and it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, and she is Miss Oba Rosalind, who is a communication officer, Women Peace Builders Network, Cameroon. She is trainer and consultant, peace journalism, peace building, and conflict transformation, Cameroon, Central Africa. She is president of Young African Women Congress Network, Cameroon chapter, and national coordinator for Cameroon Community Media. She is founder and executive director of Center for Effective Communication, Peace Building, and Sustainable Development. She is vice national coordinator of the Gender Data Network, Cameroon, and certified fact-checking fellow with Defy Hate Now. Last but not the least, she is recently awarded with Best Peace Journalist of the Year 2021 by PANAF's Excellence Award. We welcome you, ma'am, and want to hear you on media literacy in the age of internet.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to be amongst you this day, and we want to begin by welcoming all on board, and also giving me the pleasure to talk on media literacy in this age of information overload. Is something that is coming very timely, and I think everyone has to be concerned, whether you are a communication professional, so long as you have something to do with the social media, you definitely have to be concerned on how to manage the so much that you find on the internet or on the social media in order to take informed decisions. And I would like to start by beginning with these introductory notes by indicating that the development of web technologies and mobile devices makes creating, accessing, as well as using and sharing information or communication with each other. It becomes very simpler to communicate with each other. However, the amount of information constantly increasing is becoming harder to effectively organize and find quality information despite the availability of web search engines, filtering, and indexing tools. Although digital technologies have overall positive impact on the lives of everyone, frequent use of these technologies and digital media enrich with dynamic hypertext and hypermedia content, as well as multitasking, distractions caused by notifications, calls, or messages can decrease the attention span, making memorizing and learning more difficult, which can lead to stress and mental exhaustion. And I want to call information overload in another way to be information glut or information anxiety. And of course, we all know that when dealing with this particular phenomenon, I think digital technology as well as digital media influence how we are informed, how we are educated, how we spend our time, especially free time, and how we act. The information society is definitely based on the quick flow of information. For example, the Web 2.0 technology enables simple and easy creation, copying, mixing, sharing, and distribution of information. It enables people to interact with the content and members of virtual communities. Mobile devices and computer networks as well are also helping by allowing access to those information and contacts at any time and place. Now, what can we actually draw from the aspect of media literacy and, of course, information overload? Sometimes we see it as a method of dissecting media content in order to critically analyze it. And media literacy is a crucial skill all media consumers must have. And in this age of information overload, you definitely find lots of persons trying to manage a whole lot on the internet, which has definitely caused one to sometimes feel like you manage so many in so many sites. You want to get this or that information, and you find in between fake, deep fakes, and as well as misinformation and disinformation that earlier speakers have mentioned. But there is a problem with much information today. We can't really multitask, not productively at least. Even if we multitask, we cannot get it all. For example, you ask yourself this question: have you ever scrolled through Instagram while watching Netflix? Have you been convinced that you are attentively consuming whatever is showing, and suddenly realize that you have no clue why somebody may be crying? This is because you weren't multitasking at all, but rather overloading your brain with stimuli and information. While this may seem harmless, information multitasking can, however, lower one's IQ by 10 points. It can also lead to internet addiction. And let us note in passing that the internet has added a seemingly limitless supply of stuff to an information landscape already overcrowded with books, magazines, news reports, radio shows, and cable channels. As greater number of people avail themselves of online resources, however, few understand how it works and what it all means. And so being overexposed to digital media can take a toll on our mental and emotional well-being, as well as cause various physical problems such as backaches, headaches, weight gain, weight loss, blurred vision, carpal tunnel syndrome, and many others. But besides the harm to the individual user, information overload has a negative effect on modern society. I now stress on the aspect of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. Because the internet is actually free, people are just free to use internet because they have an Android phone or laptop. And the fact that virtually anyone can publish anything they want online has made it increasingly difficult to distinguish between real and fabricated information. I take myself to a study titled Limited Individual Attention and Online Virality of Low Quality Information, where the accuracy of information doesn't have an effect on its popularity on social networking sites. Low and high quality information have the same chances to succeed, oh yes, as equally stated by Diego Oliveira, co-author of this study. And in another lesson, the spread of fabricated news, researchers suggested social media platforms should take a more aggressive stance on removing bots and algorithms with fake profiles. Both accounts make up a significant portion of online profiles, and many of them flood social media with high volumes of low quality information to manipulate public discourse. Now let us look at this emergence of deepfakes. Further information into the rabbit hole of false news, misinformation, and disinformation is something we call deepfake. A deepfake uses artificial intelligence to combine and superimpose existing images and videos onto new images and videos. It uses a technology invented by student Ian Goodfellow in 2014 called Generative Adversarial Network that can recognize patterns in people's behavior through audio and video renderings, which can then be used to doctor various media blending or by blending it with other contents. And I must tell you that back then, the use of technology was limited to the artificial intelligence research community. But in the late 2017, a Reddit user called Deepfakes, a portmanteau of deep learning and fake, started posting doctored pornographic videos. In response, Reddit planned the account for violating the site content policy, but by this time, the creator of these videos had already released an app called Fake App, an application that can create forged images and videos. With this technology, it is now possible to make politicians, celebrities, and many other persons to look like they are doing or saying whatever you want because of the abundance of visual data available for them online. These deep fakes are hyper-realistic and difficult to detect. And applications like this can further add to the difficulties we already have with sifting through information online, similarly, if not harmfully, than fake news. Now, I always want to be that kind of person who is solution-oriented. Now, what is the way forward? How can we develop media literacy skills today to fight this information overload? Today, we are living in what we know as the digital age, and the only constant thing is that it will continue to develop and expand future generations. And so each and every one of us definitely has to take that mandate to develop and expand along with the media in order to properly understand what is being circulated. And for this to happen, we need to develop media literacy skills. And so media literacy is becoming an essential component of education. It is not only of vital importance to develop critical thinking, to recognize this information, but also to harness the full potential of the media in a creative way. Even for young people who grow up with gadgets, knowing how to upload videos and maintain a blog doesn't translate information literacy. Using search engines and databases fluently and knowing how to find, filter, and access accurate information and skills that must be taught by a parent a teacher, or an expert. This generation may surf the net, but that does not mean that they think about how, why, and what they are also doing. So it is crucial to be taught and reinforced in school-age children, especially now that more children are being exposed to media at a younger age. Today, children are being introduced to media even before their formal education. Media literacy skills are crucial in developing knowledge about social, political, economic forces that influence media content. And these skills will help in keeping the mind active when looking at different media platforms instead of keeping a passive mind. Now, let us look at 7 media literacy skills that we think we can use to arrest this situation of information overload. The first thing is that we need to have the ability and willingness to make an effort to understand content, to pay attention and filter out noise. This means consumers should distinguish between the points an article is trying to make and ignore the factors that could influence their thinking, thus changing the way we consume media content. An example could be when you're listening to the radio while driving. What is your main focus, radio or driving? Hopefully driving, but this means you could misinterpret what's on the radio. By realizing what factors affect your interpretation, you can be mindful of what content you are absorbing. Now let's move to the second. Having an understanding of and respect for the power of media messages. There is so much media content in circulation, and it's important to understand how people or how many people have this content available for them. And so it is imperative to dismiss the facts, but because it can be very powerful. For example, some articles can convey stereotypes. If we dismiss that, it hurts the group being stereotyped and others and other marginalized groups. It is important that we recognize and stand up against it. Thirdly, the ability to distinguish emotional from reasoned actions when responding to content and act accordingly. Sometimes we connect with certain media messages like songs, like books, because we can relate to them on an emotional level. It is important to keep in mind that content like this may not always be true, despite our emotional ties with it. Some media content may be trying to persuade you by keeping into your emotional reactions. It's essential to keep this in mind when analyzing media messages. Now we go to the fourth. It's the development of heightened expectations of media content. This is referring to viral videos and articles on the internet that are more viewed or looked upon like the top 10 that we settle on and give meaning to. When we are not searching for anything specific, today on the internet, there is so much content to filter through what we tend to scroll through it mindlessly, not looking for underlying messages and meaning. When on the internet, if there is not a specific thing you're looking for, it is easy to give meaning to the random content you fall upon. And so the next will take me to the knowledge of the genre of conventions and recognitions of their mixing. This means it is necessary to understand different genres and how information is given to those sources. For example, we are more likely to believe a documentary about weight loss than what is in a magazine for weight loss. By being aware of the fact that you can determine what is true and what is not, or if the source is reputable. And the sixth point is the ability to think critically about media messages. This means not everything you read on the internet will be true, even if it comes from a credible source. For example, if Fox News presented an article, it's important to remember that they are being paid by people who believe the same things. So their media will be biased to whom they are getting paid from to support those views. And the last one is the knowledge of the internal language of various media and the ability to understand its effects. This comes down to the understanding how media is produced, to pay attention to camera angles, lighting, text sizes, and of course the location. Understanding this language will help you to take informed decisions on the credibility of the content and the media. And as the media continues to grow, it continues to matter to us all. And so, as I take leave of my presentation today, I want to mention that the media is constantly around us. We are always interacting with mass media. So it is essential for us to learn from our experiences with it. And I take John Pavlik and Sean McIntosh in their book, Converging Media, a new introduction to mass communication, to explain that we learn topics such as math and history in school, but not media literacy. And so they bring up questions if we are interacting with the media so much, when we are not learning about it. Media literacy encourages thinking for ourselves and questioning what is being told to us. And so we are introduced to media at an increasingly younger age. So we should start learning about media and its underlying messages. Our society has a culture that absorbs and responds to the explosions of new media. We thrive off media, and because of this, media literacy skills are so important. And so, in conclusion, the use of technology has become more common in today's age. Whether in an office, in a classroom, the use of technological devices like computers play an important role in our lives. Studies have shown that computer-mediated communication leads to several negative outcomes such as depersonalization, impoliteness, information overload, and increased worker stress due to having to respond quickly. And so when communication is face to face, you are able to use your body language or other cues. And so mediated communication does not allow you to use these cues, but has created a different environment in communication, possibly altering what the media content is communicating. And so to be media literate, it is important for us all to be able to interpret and analyze media information. If an individual is unable to decipher between what is true and untrue, mediated and non-mediated, then they will have a much more difficult time navigating media effectively. And so as I end, being media literate is essential for the media consumer, and it is important that everyone take notice of the media literacy in this increasing age of information overload. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Oba Rosalind ma'am, for this wonderful opinion which you shared and said rightly that we are living in this mediatized world. And if we want to become netizen in real sense, we have to learn the netiquettes as well. And, media literacy help us in understanding the cyber wellness also, but it is quite tough that people basically are not aware of how to filter information, what to receive and what to leave. And in this, in this era of bombardment of information, it's quite tough. I mean, the filtration of information is quite tough. And also the online virality of low quality or wrong information is a matter of concern. And we have to think on it. And I hope like this discussion, later on we are going to discuss about it, because media literacy is the need of the hour and we direly required it. And that is the reason, now we are going to launch the Kashmiri version of Media Dictionary. And Media Dictionary is basically a humble initiative to make people understand, to help them to understand media in better manner, practice it in their day-to-day life. And it was initiated on 15th of March 2021 in Hindi. And later on, in Media Dictionary, we basically explain the media terms. And after Hindi, many volunteers basically came, and those are the scholars, media professors who are contributing. And right now we are having Media Dictionary in 9 languages. That is, apart from Hindi, we are having it in Awadhi, Marathi, Bangla, Bagadi, English, and many more. And today we are going to launch our Kashmiri version of Media Dictionary. So a humble request from Utkarsh to kindly launch the Kashmiri version of Media Dictionary. And it is for taking media literacy to the masses.
Assalamu alaikum. नाजरीन मीडिया डिक्शनरी हिंदिस यथ कशिश हिस्सस मज छस बह बिस्मा रिसर्च स्कॉलर तुहद खैर मकदम करान अजकिस वीडियोस मज करो अस कथ मीडिया डिक्शनरी हंस नाजरीन मीडिया डिक्शनरी छ अख मुहिम युस आलमी सतहस पे शुरू करने छ आमज अमि मुहिम हुन मेन मकसद छु आम लुकन तान मीडिया अल्फाजन हुन मतलब आम जबान मज वातनाउन नाजरीन तुम छो पता कि युस मीडिया इंडस्ट्री और मीडिया स्टडीज छ अत मज छ वारिया मीडिया अल्फाज इस्तेमाल करने यिवान यमन अल्फाजन हुन मतलब असे अंग्रेजी तो हिंदी जबान मज छ हर कुन जाय लबने यिवान मगर नाजरीन हिंदुस्तानस मज छ हिंदी तो अंग्रेजी वराई ते वारिया जबान वनने यिवान मीडिया डिक्शनरी हुन मेन मकसद छ यमन आम लुकन तान यमन मीडिया अल्फाजन हुन मतलब आम जबानन मज वातनाउन उम्मीद छ तोय आसो अजुक वीडियो पसंद आमुत जल गसो हाजिर अख नो अल्फाज हेत मीडिया डिक्शनरी मंज शुक्रिया
Thank you so much, Utkarsh. And it's a mass appeal also from this global platform from people who want to contribute for Media Dictionary to take the media literacy to the masses, because I think like we need such kind of innovative innovations and creative things. Because when we talk about India, I mean, the major population belongs to the informal sector who have never gone to schools. And when we talk about how to sensitize them, how to make them media literate, we have to think in such a creative manner, and people's contribution is required. So if anyone want to make and contribute for Media Dictionary, they are most welcome. And with that, I will request our session chair, sir, to kindly give the concluding remark on this session. Over to you, Ashish, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bhavna. In fact, you have made my job very simple, because you have picked up really right points from every speaker as they spoke. It was pretty interesting, and we are already running late, so I will not stretch it much, but I would like to basically ponder upon a couple of things very, eminently brought out, mostly about the
Ashish sir, I think your mic is off.
Yes, sir. You are muted, sir.
I'm extremely sorry. So I said that Dr. Bhavna has made my job easy because she has actually well captured all the points after every speaker had spoken. But as we are running late in this session, I would just bring about 2-3 points. One of the very important points that struck, was the colonization of data and how the data is used against, most of the population by either the bigger industry and the politics in terms of manipulating their, opinion patterns. And more so, what I would like to say is that it was extremely eminent that, we have the technology, showing up as the major winner, whereas it's all talk about artificial intelligence, but it was very eminently brought out between the lines and the presentations that the emotional intelligence is actually more important to the mankind than the artificial intelligence. Of course, the data is there, and that's why the research in media is going to be extremely, extremely important. And I think such sessions that we are doing at this point in time would bring about a large number of people to ponder and research further, because both the research papers were mind-boggling. They actually touched the pulse of the topic and could find, very important, critical elements of the information overload, and also the media literacy, if we want to segregate in different ways. But I would only say at the end that very rightly pointed out that the so-called social media is the whole connotation is that it's trying to bring people together. It's trying to be a two-way or a multiple way interaction, but it's actually putting people into small cocoons, and they are not being, they're becoming more individualistic, and they're becoming more isolated than before. And at the same time, it lives a big pressure today with the information overload, because majority of the things were leading towards disinformation, fake information, and the distorted kind of presentation forms of those information through the information overload. So one will have to be very careful, and the curation is something that people will have to do on their ways. And I think the more research and curation would be required, because at the end, I would only say that 40 years ago, we thought that we have invented an extremely great, a kind of a substance like plastic. 40 years later, we realized that it was a very dangerous thing that we did at that point in time. And although it made people's life easy for some time, but it is actually causing a lot more harm today at the end of 4 decades. And I think having these discussions at this point in time only would throw a light on us, or maybe it's a thought-provoking kind of situation whereby we are forced to think that we should not course correct ourselves 40 years from now, but the course correction has to start now. And we need to really see how the media education, the media literacy, and the media research can help people finding the solutions. Big thank you to all the speakers, and also the whole team at Global Media Education Council for setting such a wonderful session series together. Over to you, Dr. Bhav.
Thank you so much, sir, for your concluding remark. And we have to think on data colonization and content curation as well. So now I would like to take the opportunity to thank our chief guest, Dr. Dharani Mishra ma'am, eminent Indian media educator, who is my guru and my philosopher, my guide, Professor Subhash sir, who taught me in IAMC when I was way back in 2005 and 6. So he is my teacher, my guru. I'm thankful to Ashish sir for a wonderful, chairing this session. And I'm also thankful to our keynote speaker, Ms. Oba Rosaline, to both, in fact, 3 paper presenters were there. So thanks to you guys. And I'm also thankful to Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary sir, who is a dynamic and effective communicator, in fact, assertive communicator as well. And I'm thankful to Dr. Amrish Saxena sir, all President Professor K.G. Suresh sir, USP sir, and other VPs of Global Media Education Council. And last but not the least, I'm thankful to Manushri, Utkarsh, Nymphia. And now we are going to have our next session on 8th of November after Diwali. So happy Diwali in advance. Thanks to everyone for making this grand success. Thanks to everyone.